Hello, and welcome to the In-Service Professional Development course for Environmental Science for AP, Second Edition. This course will provide you with an introduction to the textbook, program, and its resources. Our goals for today's session are to make sure that you are well prepared for using environmental science for AP in your classroom. This in-service is designed to introduce you to the pedagogy of the student edition and to give you the opportunity to take an in-depth look at the other resources that came with your new textbook. Before you start, please download the planning document for Section 8 of Environmental Science for AP. We recommend using the planning document to start organizing how you'll be using this book in your classroom. Let's start by taking a look at the program as a whole. With your adoption, you will receive all of the materials listed on the screen. Please note that some materials are add-ons, such as our Strive for a 5 student workbook and ebook access. If your district did not purchase these and you would like to hear more about them, please contact your sales representative. If you feel that something is missing from your order, please let us know immediately. We're going to start by taking a quick look at the AP course and exam. Before you begin teaching an AP course, head to AP Central on the College Board website. From there, you'll be able to navigate to the AP Environmental Science homepage. Here you will find a lot of documents to read through, including the AP course description and teacher's guide. The course description contains an introduction to the course overviews, standards, and information about the exam with sample questions. We also recommend that you familiarize yourself with the breakdown of key ideas in AP Environmental Science. All of the content areas of AP Environmental Science are represented pretty equally on the AP exam, with the exception of pollution, which is slightly higher. This breakdown will be useful for your students as they are completing their AP exam review. Now we'll take a quick look at the AP exam. Your students should be familiar with the format of the AP exam in the beginning of the school year. The exam consists of two sections. The first is multiple choice and lasts 90 minutes. There are 100 multiple choice questions that make up 60% of your students' score. The second section is focused on writing and lasts 90 minutes as well. There are 4 questions, 1 data set, 1 document-based question, and 2 synthesis and evaluation questions. These 4 questions make up 40% of your students' score. Thank you for completing the first video. Now please answer some quick questions before we proceed to the student edition. We will now take a look at the pedagogy of the student edition of Environmental Science for AP. The textbook is organized closely around the College Board curriculum. Every item on the topic outline is examined in the text, and the text uses the same terminology, languages, and formulas that your students will see on the exam. You can find a correlation in the opening pages of the textbook. The text is organized by chapter and then by modules. Modules are shorter chunks that you can cover in 1 to 2 class periods. You can rearrange the modules based on how you prefer to teach environmental science. Each chapter opens with a case study. The case study is a direct connection to the subject matter in the chapter. For example, Chapter 8 is on Earth systems. The case study focuses on hybrid vehicles being environmentally sound. You can use the case study to introduce the topic to your students. Some teachers like to have their students read and write a reaction to the case study. Here is an example of 4 questions that you can use in your classroom. They will fit into all of the case studies. At the beginning of each module, you will find a list of learning objectives that will help keep your students focused. The learning objectives also correlate to the AP curriculum. There are multiple ways to use learning objectives in your classroom. We have provided 2 examples on the screen here. The Do the Math boxes are available to help your students meet the challenge of an AP Environmental Science math problem. It will show your students the math skills they need to tackle these problems. At the end of the Do the Math box is a Your Turn practice problem for your students to do in class. Like with the other pedagogy within the book, there are multiple ways to use the Do the Math boxes in class. You can take a look at some suggestions here. At the end of each module is a review, which includes AP-style multiple-choice review questions. Answers to these questions are found in your teacher resource materials, which we'll take a look at next. At the end of each chapter, we revisit the learning objectives for each module and short summaries for your students. This is a great review tool before the AP exam. You can select a learning objective to review from each module and give it to your students to study from. At the end of each chapter, we also provide you with more AP-style questions in the form of an AP practice exam that includes both multiple choice questions and 2 free response questions. These are great for end-of-chapter review or for homework the night before the end-of-chapter test. If you assign these for homework, we recommend asking your students which questions they had the most trouble with. You may not have time to review every question, but you can review the ones that they are struggling with. The text is divided into 8 units. At the end of each unit, there is a longer AP practice exam. These exams contain 20 multiple choice questions and 2 free response questions. These unit exams are cumulative, so they will test your students' knowledge of all of the content within that unit. All of this culminates at the end of the textbook with a cumulative AP exam that contains 100 multiple choice questions and 4 free response questions, just like on the actual exam. If your spring break occurs in March or April, that's a good time to assign this exam. Working towards sustainability sections are found in every chapter of the textbook. They are short but powerful stories and facts that help students appreciate a larger picture of environmental science. Teachers can assign these for homework or for use during class time. Each Working Towards Sustainability has 2 critical thinking questions that you can have your students answer. Read it with your students and see how they react. There are 8 science applied sections, 1 for each unit. These are also a great resource for teachers and students. Thank you for completing the second video in the course. Please answer the following questions, and then we will move on to looking at the teacher resources. Welcome to the last video in the Environmental Science for AP training course, focusing on teacher resources. Let's start out by taking a look at your Wraparound Teacher's Edition. The Teacher's Edition contains the entire student edition with answers, activities, and teaching tips in the margins. At the beginning of each chapter, you will find a few planning pages. These pages contain everything you need to know to teach that chapter of the textbook. Each chapter contains a professional development overview video, which can be found online or in the Teacher Resource Flash Drive. It also shows how that text aligns to the College Board course description and lists out the chapter learning objectives. The planning pages will also contain a pacing guide and list of additional resources. The additional resources can be found in your teacher resource materials on the Teacher Resource Flash Drive. The planning pages also contain a list of free response questions from previous AP exams. These are available to you through the College Board, and we outline the questions by topic so you know when to use them in your classroom. In the margins of the Teacher's Edition, you will find many different callouts, or bucket items. The most common one would be the teaching tips. Let's take a look at some in Chapter 8, Module 4. The teaching tips are placed throughout the chapter to help you with your planning. These teaching tips include suggestions for warm-up exercises, discussion starters, activities, how to engage with your students, video links, concept maps, debating the issue, connections, review, beyond the classroom, and measuring your impact. Here are a few teaching tips that you can use as homework or an in-class activity. Another thing to look for is the TRM button. When you see that button, it means to open up your Teacher Resource Flash Drive and take a look at some of the additional teacher resource materials you can use. For example, with this activity, we provide you with step-by-step instructions, materials, and more. We also provide you with lab experiments to do in your classroom. Here's one from page 281 on soil texture. The lab focuses on the soil triangle and has students calculate the percentage of sand, silt, and clay. This is an important concept that has shown up on many multiple choice and free response questions. More information on the lab can be found in your teacher resource materials. There is at least one lab for every chapter of the textbook. AP exam tips are found in every chapter and point out information that has been on past AP tests. Many times, AP exam tips indicate an area of the text that relates to a past College Board free response question, or, in this example, gives teachers hints on how the free responses are graded. We also provide you with step-by-step answers to the Do the Math boxes and more math practice boxes that outline math teaching tips and worked problems for you to use with your students. There are also examples of math problems that have been used on past AP exams. A Do the Math video is also available on the Teacher Resource Flash Drive. As you go through your Teacher's Edition for the first time, use a highlighter to mark the ones that fit your teaching style the best. There's so much information and teaching ideas within each chapter that you may not have time to do them all in your classroom. Picking and choosing the best materials that fit your teaching style is a really good place to start. Use your chapter planning document to cut down and organize what you're going to be using in your classroom. The Teacher Resource Flash Drive contains all of your additional resources, which are listed above. This is a valuable resource that should be kept in a safe place. You can also download these resources from our password-protected teacher site, which you will receive access to. Thank you very much for joining us for the Environmental Science for AP 2nd Edition Professional Development Training course. If you have any questions or would like more information, please do not hesitate to reach out.